I'm Cenk Uygur, sitting in for Chris Jansing, live at MSNBC headquarters in New York. All right, we begin with a step forward for construction of a mosque and Islamic cultural center, just blocks away from the World Trade Center site. There's very emotional arguments on both sides of this. Today, the fight reached a fever pitch as city's Landmarks Preservation Commission vote removed the biggest hurdle for this project by denying landmark status to a 152-year-old Burlington coat factory building. The site has cleared a major hurdle to be developed into a mosque and Islamic center. Today, Mayor Mike Bloomberg applauded that unanimous vote.
We would betray our values and play into our enemies' hands if we were to treat Muslims differently than anyone else. In fact, to cave to populist sentiment would be to hand a victory to the terrorists.
Let's bring in Carl Paladino, Republican candidate for New York governor, who I know disagrees with that, and Stephen Schwartz, executive director of the Center for Islamic Pluralism. Carl, I want to start with you, actually. You just heard Mayor Bloomberg, and he says it's un-American. He said it before. So why do you make the argument against this mosque and Islamic cultural center?
It has nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with freedom of religion. It's ideology. Mayor Bloomberg's wrong. He's off on some other planet on this issue. And the 9 stooges yesterday, his stooges that voted against landmark status, it just shows you how New York City operates.
Carl,
this is about,
I might be on that same planet with Mayor Bloomberg, so inform me how we're crazy. Why is it about ideology? Do you think 1.5 billion Muslims across the world all have the same ideology?
The Islamists who originally named this the Cordoba Mosque sort of sent a little message when they used the term Cordoba. Cordoba stands in the Islam world for triumph, for conquest. And the intent in putting a mosque at this site is without question one of intrusion on the memories of the thousands of people that died at Ground Zero, and also the thousands of soldiers, both Allied and American, that died and were maimed in the ensuing wars.
Steve, I'm going to get to you in a second, but Carl, I got to follow up with you. Muslims were also killed on 9/11, and we had dozens in the towers, in the planes, etc. Whose memories are you talking about? And who's doing the intriguing? Are you really worried that America's going to get taken over by Muslims? Are you really that paranoid?
The American people have a right to have their elected leaders stand for them on an issue such as this. This is an issue of an intrusion into these memories of these soldiers. That's not 600 feet. That mosque site isn't 600 feet from Ground Zero. It is a part of Ground Zero because the dust cloud, including the remains of those people that died that day, covered an area much greater than that 600 feet. The landing gear of the airplane went through the top of the building.
Stephen, let me go to you.
This is an affront to the American people.
Okay, yes. It depends on which American people. I guess it's an affront to you, but certainly not to all American people. By the way, just to be clear, New Yorkers in a poll, majority of them said yes, that the mosque should be built. So I don't know which people you're speaking for.
No, those are people from Manhattan.
Oh, okay, they don't count, right? I believe the mosque and Ground Zero are in Manhattan. Stephen, you're a Muslim, and you're also against this mosque. So I got to ask you, how far you think that this is too close to Ground Zero? But it's about 2.5 blocks. What do you need it to be? 12 blocks, 22 blocks, Staten Island? Where do you need it to be?
Well, there are 8 functioning mosques in Manhattan, including the 96th Street Mosque, and there's no shortage of mosques in Manhattan, and I think that traditional Islam tells us that Muslims should do their best not to offend or violate the sensibilities of their non-Muslim neighbors. This controversy creates problems both in its insensitivity to the families of the victims of 9/11, and also it creates problems for the Muslim community. And a lot of American Muslims are asking why this idea suddenly became so urgent. In fact, several years ago, Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf was talking about having an Islamic cultural center at 96th Street. And finally, the fact is that the project does have associations with radical Muslims that should be questioned and should be examined. And if Imam Rauf really wants this project to be something that will improve relations between Muslims and non-Muslims, which of course I'm in favor of, he should be more transparent about the sources of the financing.
But Stephen, you would agree that they could build a church there, they could build a synagogue there. Are you telling your fellow Muslim Americans, hey, know your place, okay? Even though Muslims died on that day, just along with Christians and Jews, you shouldn't build too close. Go all the way up to 96th Street just to be safe. Go to the back of Manhattan, like the back of the bus.
I'm not saying know your place or go to the back of the bus, because Muslims have a high rate of income in the United States, a high rate of education, and are basically accepted in the United States. There's very little of the kind of prejudice against Muslims you see in Western Europe and other parts of the non-Muslim world. I am saying that traditional Islam teaches us to be cautious about the security of our community and about our relations with our non-Muslim neighbors. That's all I'm saying. That's what traditional Islam says.
I want to go back to Carl Paladino for a second here. Carl, you know that they're already praying near Ground Zero. Of course, family of the victims come and pray, but these people are already pray in a nearby building. Muslims pray 5 times a day. So where can they pray and not pray according to you? How many blocks do they have to move, or how many cities do they have to move before it's okay for them to practice their religion?
You're really pushing the envelope on this. This is not a complicated matter. This is very simple. The Islamists are purposely citing this mosque in a position where they can claim triumph. They did it before. They did it in Jerusalem. They did it in Istanbul.
Who's they? Who's they? You keep saying they. Who's they? Do you know that the 1.5 billion Muslims are not all Al-Qaeda? Has that ever occurred to you? You tell me I'm pushing the envelope. You're smearing 1.5 billion people here? Who's they?
No, I'm not. It has nothing to do with the Muslims in America. This has nothing to do with it. It has to do with an imam who favors Hamas and favors Hezbollah, and he's told, so far we can't determine where he's going to get his money. At first he tells the American press he's going to get it in the United States. Then he goes and tells the London press he's going to get the money from the Far East. It sounds like a lot of hogwash to me. It sounds like what he's trying to do is build something to the warring culture of the Islamist movement. And that's what this thing is about. It has nothing to do with religion or the good Muslim people of America. Nothing at all.
I'm making it that way. I want to make it clear on the record. We have a statement from the Mosque so that they can speak for themselves and not have Paladino speak for them. We're beginning the process of defining and developing Parks 51, and we'll be working with the city, community, and civic organizations, 9/11 families groups, as well as interfaith and cultural organizations to develop programming and the project over the next few months.
What would you expect them to say? Would you expect them to say something other than that?
No, but do you know that people like Jeffrey Goldberg at the Atlantic say, look, they've worked with these people, and the whole point of them is to reach out to non-Muslims?
Who's these people? Who's these people?
Okay, the people building the mosque. And they've actually spoken to those people.
There's one guy building the mosque. There's one guy building the mosque, and he happens to be hiding behind some good Muslim people.
All right. We are out of time. A spirited debate. Thank you, Carl Paladino and Stephen Schwartz.
Thank you.
As you might be able to tell, I'm not sure I agree with you guys, but we appreciate you coming on to talk about it.
Thank you.
All right. Now, look, on this issue, I want to ask all of you at home a question. Who are we as a nation? I'm agnostic now, but I was born a Muslim, and my whole family is Muslim. They're not evil. They didn't knock those towers down. In fact, they live in New Jersey, and they were scared to death that someone they knew was in the towers. Did you know that dozens of Muslims died on 9/11 in the towers, along with their Christian and Jewish brothers? Should their families not pray near Ground Zero? How much more did they have to sacrifice for this country to be counted as Americans? Look, I'm against fundamentalist Islam. I left the religion. I'm also against fundamentalist Christianity and all the religions in their fundamentalist forms. But this isn't about that, or even the people building this particular center. This is about what America says about all Muslims living here. Are they welcome or are they not? My mom's a Muslim, and she's the sweetest person you'll ever meet. She'll give you everything on her plate to make sure you're not hungry, and if you're sick, she's the first one who'll be there for you. She's a mom, I hope, just like your mom. The 1.5 billion Muslims in this world aren't in Al-Qaeda. they love their children too. And some of them, like me, love the Pittsburgh Steelers, air-conditioned movie theaters, and subs from New Jersey. America, this is choosing time. Do you want to take the path of darkness and hatred, or what we've always been, the shining city on a hill? That's why my family came here, because we believe in America. Please don't let us down. Don't tell us the dream wasn't true. I believe today, and I want to believe tomorrow.